Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That way, you'll always stay connected to our stories and never miss the next adventure. Belthus 9 was, to put it generously, a dump with delusions of grandeur. The Trade Hub station spun lazily in the void between star systems, its hull patched with so many different alloys that it looked like a quilt stitched together by a drunk metallurgist. But it wasn't the aesthetic nightmare that drew beings from 1,000 worlds. No, it was the opportunity. The Calmet Collective had set up shop here, and when the galaxy's premier military superpower comes recruiting, everyone shows up. Even the desperate ones. Especially the desperate ones. Wren walked through the main concourse with her hands in her pockets, looking for all the world like someone who'd taken a wrong turn on the way to a coffee shop. No armor, no weapons, no bio-augments glowing beneath her skin or cybernetic enhancements whirring at her joints. Just standard-issue civilian clothes, worn boots, and an expression that suggested mild curiosity rather than pre-combat focus. Around her, the station buzzed with activity. A Vorentine, 8 feet of scales and teeth, stomped past carrying what looked like a plasma cannon the size of a small child. 2 Quellan siblings skittered by on their 6 legs, their carapaces fitted with custom shock plates that hummed with stored energy. A lone Growth mercenary leaned against a support pillar, idly sharpening blades that protruded from his forearms like organic switchblades. Everyone was armed. Everyone was augmented. Everyone looked ready to murder their way through a small moon. And then there was Wren, who looked ready to file her taxes. The recruitment arena loomed ahead, a massive structure that took up an entire section of the station's lower ring. The entrance was marked by holographic displays cycling through recruitment propaganda, all very stirring and martial. Bold warriors from a dozen species standing triumphant over abstract representations of chaos and disorder. Very inspiring. Very join the military, see the universe, shoot things that shoot back. Wren queued up behind a Thalaxian whose shoulder-mounted weapon pods kept beeping in what she assumed was a diagnostic sequence. The line moved slowly, each recruit being processed by bored-looking officials who'd clearly seen this exact scene 1,000 times before. When Wren finally reached the processing desk, the officer on duty didn't even look up. Thelquin, according to the nameplate that hovered in holographic text above the desk, was a Quellan, which meant 4 arms, a chitinous exoskeleton the color of old bronze, and compound eyes that could track multiple targets simultaneously. Right now, all those eyes were focused on a datapad, scrolling through information with the enthusiasm of someone reading a terms of service agreement. "Name," Thelquin said flatly. "Wren. Species. Human." That got a reaction. One eye swiveled up to actually look at her, while the other 3 continued scanning the datapad. "Human," Thelquin repeated, and there was something in the way the translator rendered the word, a slight pause, a hint of confusion. "From Earth?" "That's generally where we keep the humans, yes." 2 more eyes swiveled up. Thelquin set down the datapad. "You're aware this is military recruitment, correct? Not tourism?" "I can read, thanks." "And you're aware that the survival rate for unaugmented, unarmored recruits in the arena trials is roughly," Thelquin consulted the datapad, "8%? Seems low." "It is low." "No, I mean, seems like it should be lower. 8% of people without gear survive 10 minutes against combat drones? That's actually pretty generous." Thelquin's mandibles clicked together in what might have been the Quellan equivalent of a tired sigh. "The drones are calibrated for testing, not execution. We're looking for soldiers, not corpses. How civic-minded. Where is your equipment? Don't have any. All 4 eyes were on her now. You don't have any equipment. Nope. No weapons. Nope. No armor. Do these boots count? They're pretty sturdy. Thelquin leaned back in the chair, a modified piece of furniture designed to accommodate a Quellen's unique physiology, and actually studied her for the first time. Ren could practically see the mental calculation happening behind those compound eyes. Small species, soft skin, no natural weapons, no defensive adaptations. Humans had been on the galactic stage for what? 15 months? 16? Barely long enough to establish trade routes, let alone military credibility. You're going to die, Thelquin said simply. Probably not. Definitely. Want to bet on it? That got a reaction from the other recruits in line. A ripple of chittering, growling laughter spread through the queue. The Thalaxian in front of Ren turned around, weapon pods swiveling to track her. The human makes jokes before death, the Thalaxian rumbled, his translator giving the words a bass heavy resonance. This is either bravery or stupidity. Can't it be both? Ren asked pleasantly. More laughter. Even Thelquin's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. You understand the trial parameters? 10 minutes in the arena, automated defense systems will engage, survive the duration, and you're accepted for training. Fail to survive, and... Thelquin made a gesture with 2 hands that the translator didn't bother rendering. Probably something along the lines of, your next of kin gets a very small box. Got it. 10 minutes. Don't die. Become a productive member of galactic society. Most recruits bring their own equipment, Thelquin continued, clearly trying one last time to inject some sanity into the situation. Weapons, armor, tactical gear from their homeworlds. Those who can't afford it use the station's standard-issue equipment, though I'll warn you, it's not good. How not good? It's designed for Calmet physiology, which means unless you happen to have 4 arms, a reinforced thorax, and the ability to process neurotoxins, most of it won't even fit you properly, let alone function. What about local materials? Thelquin blinked, all 4 eyes in sequence, like dominoes falling. What? Local materials, stuff in the arena. Can I use that? There's debris, construction equipment. The arena gets reconfigured between trials, so there's usually some materials left over. But it's not... Thelquin paused, trying to find the right words. It's not weapons. It's junk. Junk works. No, I don't think you understand. It's literal. I understand. Can I use it or not? Thelquin's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound the translator interpreted as frustrated confusion. I suppose there's no regulation against it, but... Great! Ren leaned forward, glancing at the datapad. So do I just sign here, or is there more paperwork? Because if there's one thing humans are really good at, it's pointless bureaucracy, and I'd hate to show you up on your home turf. For a long moment, Thelquin just stared at her. Then, with the air of someone who'd long since stopped trying to understand the universe's sense of humor, the Quellan pushed the datapad across the desk. Press your appendage. Sorry, your hand. Here. It'll register your biometrics and assign you to the next available trial slot. Ren pressed her hand to the scanner. The datapad beeped, chimed, and displayed a string of text in Calmet standard script. You're in arena slot 96, Thelquin said. That's in approximately 20 minutes. Follow the yellow guidelights to the staging area. Try not to die before you reach the arena at least. The paperwork is annoying. I'll do my best. As Ren turned to follow the glowing yellow path that materialized along the floor, she heard Thelquin mutter something to a colleague. Nulvash, based on the nameplate, a crystalline being whose body refracted light in geometric patterns. "How much do you think the human lasts?" Nulvash asked, voice like wind chimes in a hurricane. 30 seconds, Thelquin replied. Maybe 45 if the drones take pity on her. I'll take that bet. 20 credits says less than 20 seconds. You're on. Ren smiled to herself and kept walking. The staging area was crowded with recruits, all of them going through last-minute equipment checks, psyching themselves up, or engaging in the time-honored military tradition of hurry up and wait. She found an empty spot against the wall and settled in, watching the chaos around her. A massive view screen dominated one wall, showing the current trial in progress. Some reptilian species she didn't recognize was darting between obstacles, firing a weapon that looked like it shot frozen bolts of something unpleasant. The drones, sleek, hovering units bristling with energy emitters, pursued with mechanical precision, adjusting their tactics with each exchange. The reptilian was good, fast, smart, using the terrain effectively. But the drones were learning, adapting to the recruits' patterns. Ren watched with interest, not because she cared about the reptilians' performance, though she hoped they made it, but because she was learning the drones' behavior, attack patterns, response times, how they prioritized targets and adapted to threats. Always good to know what you're up against. The trial ended with the reptilian surviving the full 10 minutes, though just barely. The crowd in the staging area offered scattered applause, the universal gesture of, "Glad it's you and not me." More trials cycled through. Some recruits succeeded. Most didn't, though the drones were indeed calibrated for testing rather than killing. Failed recruits were stunned, frozen, or otherwise incapacitated, but not actually murdered. Very sporting of the Calumet Collective. Finally, the view screen displayed Arena Slot 96, Species Human, Designate Ren. Here we go. The staging area doors opened, revealing the arena beyond. Ren walked through, and behind her, she could hear the murmur of the crowd. Curious, skeptical, already writing her obituary. The arena was bigger than it looked from the view screen, maybe 100 meters across, with variable terrain, obstacles, barriers, some elevated platforms, and yes, scattered in one corner, a pile of construction debris, broken panels, metal piping, coils of cable, and what looked like a partially disassembled vending machine. Perfect. Above the arena, in the observation deck, Thelquin and Nulvash had moved to get a better view. They weren't the only ones. Word had apparently spread that a human, a soft, unaugmented, unarmed human, was about to attempt the trial using nothing but trash. This was either going to be educational or, very briefly, entertaining. The arena's announcement system crackled to life, the voice rendered in cold, emotionless, Calumet standard. Trial commencing in 10 seconds. Drones will activate upon countdown completion. Duration, 10 minutes, survive to pass. Good luck, recruit. Ren cracked her knuckles, rolled her shoulders, and walked calmly toward the debris pile. The countdown began. 10. She reached the pile and started sorting through materials, picking up pieces, testing their weight. 9. A length of metal piping. Good heft. Roughly 2 meters long. 8. Coil of cable. Looked like standard power conduit. Flexible, but strong. 6. Wait. What happened to 8? Oh well. Math was never the arena's strong suit. 5. That vending machine panel had a cracked grav stabilizer unit. Still had some charge in it, if the faint blue glow was any indication. 3. She grabbed a chunk of broken concrete. Not elegant, but effective. 1. The drones activated. 6 of them materialized from recessed alcoves in the arena walls, hovering into position with the smooth, terrifying grace of predators who'd never known doubt. They spread out instantly, forming a perimeter, energy emitters glowing as they charged their weapons. And Ren, standing in the middle of an arena with nothing but garbage in her hands, grinned. "All right," she said to nobody in particular. "Let's see what you've got." The first drone fired. The energy blast scorched past Ren's shoulder close enough that she felt the heat through her jacket. She was already moving, though, not away from the drones, which would have been the sane response, but at an angle that put a waist-high barrier between her and 3 of the 6 hovering death machines. "Okay, so that's a Class C energy emitter," she muttered to herself, hefting the metal pipe in one hand while tucking the grav panel under her other arm, which means it probably has a cooldown cycle of, 3 seconds. You just have to not be where it's shooting. Easy. Another blast. She ducked, rolled, came up running toward the debris pile again. The drones repositioned, their targeting algorithms recalculating her trajectory, trying to predict where she'd be in the next 2.5 seconds. They were good at math. Ren was good at being unpredictable. She grabbed the cable coil, looped it over her shoulder, and sprinted toward one of the elevated platforms. A drone descended to cut her off, energy emitter glowing with imminent violence. Ren planted the metal pipe, used it to vault over a low wall, and somehow, through a combination of momentum, luck, and what could only be described as aggressive optimism, landed on the platform without getting shot. In the observation deck, Thel Quinn's mandibles had stopped clicking. The Quellan was staring at the view screen with the intensity of someone watching their entire worldview get dismantled in real time. "She's building something," Nulvash said, crystalline form refracting the light from the screen into rainbow patterns across the deck. "Building what?" Thel Quinn demanded. "I don't know. That's what concerns me." Down in the arena, Ren had wedged the grav panel against the platform's railing and was doing something with the cable. The drones, momentarily confused by her stationary position, formed up for a coordinated strike. 3 approached from different angles, energy emitters charging in sync. Smart. Cover all the escape routes, fire simultaneously, no chance to dodge. Except Ren wasn't trying to dodge. She grabbed the grav panel, which still had just enough charge to maintain a weak gravitational field, and angled it like a shield. The first energy blast hit the panel's field and deflected, the bolt careening off at a wild angle that nearly took out another drone. "Oh, that's just not fair," Ren shouted, genuinely delighted. "You're going to shoot each other if I aim this right." The second and third blasts hit the panel simultaneously. The grav field collapsed with a sound like reality hiccuping, and the panel went dark. But it had done its job. 3 seconds of protection. 3 seconds for Ren to finish wrapping the cable around the metal pipe. She dropped the dead panel, hefted her new creation, a pipe with a cable loop at one end, and grinned at the nearest drone. "You know what humanity's greatest invention was?" she asked conversationally, spinning the pipe to build momentum. "Not the wheel, not fire. It was the concept of good enough. We don't need perfect. We just need functional." She released the cable loop. The pipe spun through the air like a medieval flail, cable trailing behind it, and caught the nearest drone square in its central processing unit. The impact sent the drone spinning wildly before it crashed into the arena floor with a sound like expensive equipment meeting an untimely end. 1 down, 5 to go. Timer, 8 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Did she just… Thelquinn couldn't finish the sentence. Yes, Nulvash replied. She weaponized garbage. That's not possible. And yet, the remaining drones recalibrated. Their tactical algorithms, designed to counter conventional weapons and standard combat patterns, were struggling with the concept of crazy human throwing things. They spread out further, maintaining distance, adopting a more cautious approach. Ren dropped back to the arena floor and immediately sprinted toward the broken vending machine. Energy blasts tracked her movement, chewing up the ground behind her in small explosions of superheated concrete. She slid the last 2 meters, because apparently this was an action movie now, and fetched up behind the machine's bulk. Relative safety, for about 5 seconds until the drones repositioned. She pried open the vending machine's access panel, revealing the internal mechanisms. Most of it was fried, but the cooling unit was still intact, and more importantly, it had a small electromagnetic coil for the payment processor. "Oh, you beautiful piece of obsolete technology," Ren breathed. She yanked the coil free, along with a handful of wiring and what looked like a small battery pack. Around her, energy blasts were systematically disassembling the vending machine, the drones having figured out that sustained fire would eventually eliminate her cover. Time to move. Ren grabbed the chunk of concrete she'd picked up earlier, hefted it in both hands, and threw it in a high arc toward the far side of the arena. 3 drones tracked the movement, their targeting systems momentarily prioritizing the fast-moving object. Momentarily being the key word. But momentarily was enough. Ren bolted from cover, components clutched to her chest, and dove behind another barrier just as the drones realized they'd been juked by a rock. Okay, she muttered, fingers working quickly to connect the electromagnetic coil to the battery pack. Basic electromagnetic pulse device. It won't be strong enough to kill them, but if I can get close enough, it should scramble their sensors for a few seconds. Just need to… An energy blast punched through the barrier, missing her head by centimeters. "Hey, I'm working here!" She twisted 2 wires together, and the coil hummed to life. Not much of a hum, honestly. More like an asthmatic wheeze, but it was something. Timer, 6 minutes, 45 seconds remaining. 4 drones left, and they were getting smarter, learning her patterns. They'd stopped clustering together, stopped giving her opportunities to use their own tactics against them. Time for a different approach. Ren peeked over the barrier, gauged the distances, and made a decision that was either tactically brilliant or suicidally stupid. Possibly both. She stood up, completely exposed, and started walking toward the nearest drone. In the observation deck, the crowd of watching recruits went silent. "What is she doing?" someone whispered. "I think she's given up," another replied. Thelquinn didn't respond. The Quellen's compound eyes were locked on the screen, all 4 arms gripping the railing. The drones, for their part, seemed equally confused. Their targeting algorithms flagged the behavior as anomalous. Threats ran, dodged, hid. They didn't walk slowly toward you with their hands visible and empty. Was this surrender? The drone's programming didn't have a clear protocol for surrender. They were designed to test combat capability, not process prisoners. Ren kept walking. 20 meters from the nearest drone. 15. 10. The drone's energy emitter charged. Targeting lock acquired. 5 meters. Ren's hand moved. Fast. Faster than something her size should have been able to move. And she threw the makeshift electromagnetic pulse device. It wasn't a perfect throw. The device tumbled through the air, trailing sparks from its jury-rigged connections, but it got close enough. The electromagnetic pulse discharged in a crackling sphere of energy. The nearest drone's systems went haywire, its hovering field destabilizing, sensors flooding with garbage data. It dropped 3 meters before its backup systems kicked in, and by then, Ren was already moving. She grabbed the falling drone, used its momentum to swing herself up onto its chassis, and rode it like the world's most dangerous mechanical bull for exactly 2 seconds before jumping off and letting it crash into another drone. 2 down, 3 left. Timer, 5 minutes, 10 seconds remaining. The surviving drones, in what could only be interpreted as robotic frustration, abandoned their cautious approach and rushed her simultaneously. Ren ran, not away from them. Of course not, because that would make sense, but toward the cable she'd left on the elevated platform earlier. She'd positioned it deliberately, running it between 2 support pillars at ankle height. Well, ankle height for a human. For hovering drones that relied on sensor arrays positioned near their base to navigate terrain. The first drone hit the cable at full speed. The cable snapped, but not before the drone's forward momentum carried it into a support pillar with enough force to crack its housing. It dropped like a stone. The second drone managed to swerve, avoiding the trap, but its evasive maneuver put it directly in line with a piece of debris Ren had positioned earlier. The grav panel, propped at an angle against the platform. The drone's sensors detected the inactive panel, categorized it as non-threatening, and ignored it, right up until Ren kicked the panel's support out from under it. The panel fell. The drone, moving at high speed, couldn't adjust in time. Panel met drone. Gravity 1. 1 drone left. Timer. 3 minutes, 20 seconds remaining. Ren and the final drone regarded each other across the arena. The drone's energy emitter glowed steadily, fully charged. Its tactical algorithms had been watching, learning, compiling data on every trick she'd pulled. It wasn't going to fall for misdirection. It wasn't going to get caught by traps. It was going to shoot her the moment she moved, and its accuracy rating was 98.6%. Ren sat down, just sat down, cross-legged, in the middle of the arena. "You've got to be kidding me," Thel Quinn muttered. The drone waited. This was another anomaly. Sitting wasn't attacking. Sitting wasn't fleeing. Sitting was nothing. The drone's programming struggled with nothing. Ren tilted her head back and studied the arena's ceiling. Specifically, the fire suppression system that was required by station safety regulations to be present in all enclosed spaces capable of reaching dangerous temperatures. She'd noticed it when she first entered. Old system, probably hadn't been serviced in months. The kind of system that used chemical foam rather than more modern solutions. Chemical foam that, when deployed, tended to short out electronics. Ren reached into her pocket, slowly, so the drone wouldn't interpret it as a threatening gesture, and pulled out a small metal fragment she'd palmed from the vending machine earlier. The piece still had some residual electrical charge from the machine's systems. She looked at the drone. The drone looked at her. "You know what the problem with being really, really smart is?" Ren asked. "Sometimes you overthink things." She threw the metal fragment straight up. Not at the drone, not at anything tactical. Just up. The fragment hit a fire suppression sensor. The sensor, detecting what it interpreted as a heat signature from a potential electrical fire, did exactly what it was designed to do. Klaxons blared, red warning lights strobed, and from every nozzle in the ceiling, chemical foam erupted in thick white streams. The drone's sensors went berserk. It couldn't see through the foam, couldn't navigate. Its hovering field, disrupted by the chemical composition of the foam coating its emitters, began to fail. Ren, meanwhile, had closed her eyes and held her breath the moment she'd thrown the fragment. She knew the foam was coming. The drone didn't. Through the white blanket of foam, she heard the drone's systems whining, struggling, failing. Then a thump as it hit the ground. Timer, 90 seconds, remaining. The foam continued to pour for another 30 seconds before automated systems determined the fire was contained and shut down the suppression system. By then, the arena looked like the inside of a defective cappuccino machine. Slowly, covered head to toe in white foam, Ren stood up. She wiped her eyes clear, looked around at the 6 incapacitated drones, and shrugged. "Good enough," she said. The timer hit 0. A different sound echoed through the arena, a chime indicating successful completion. In the observation deck, absolute silence reigned. Every single recruit, every officer, every being with functioning sensory organs was staring at the view screen. Thelquin's mandibles hung open. Nulvash's crystalline structure had gone completely dark, a sign of profound shock in that species. Thelquin struggled to form words. She destroyed 6 military-grade combat drones with a broken vending machine and a fire suppression system. Technically, Nulvash corrected quietly. She destroyed 5 drones and incapacitated 1 using environmental manipulation. That doesn't make it better. I know. Down in the arena, the exit doors opened. Ren walked through them, leaving foam-covered footprints across the pristine floor, looking for all the world like someone who'd just finished a moderately interesting afternoon rather than a military trial designed to separate warriors from corpses. She nodded politely to the stunned silence of the observation deck. "So," she said, voice carrying clearly in the quiet, "do I pass? Or is there a written exam?" The secondary evaluation room was smaller than Ren expected, and significantly more intimidating. Not because of its size, but because of the being waiting inside. Commander Felthan of the Calmet Collective stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a mantis-like physiology that suggested both elegance and barely restrained lethality. 4 eyes tracked her entrance with the precision of someone who'd spent decades evaluating threats. The translator on the desk rendered his clicking mandibles into crisp, measured tones. "Recruit Ren. Sit." Ren sat, still picking foam out of her hair. "Your trial has been flagged by our analysis systems," Felthan said, folding his primary arms while his secondary ones manipulated a holographic display. "Specifically, it has been flagged 17 times. Each flag represents a statistical impossibility. Is that good or bad?" "That is confusing." Felthan zoomed in on footage of her jury-rigging the electromagnetic pulse device. In 400 cycles of recruitment across 63 species, no one has ever weaponized a vending machine. "Really? That seems like an oversight in your testing protocols." Felthan's mandibles clicked rapidly. The translator interpreted it as something between frustration and fascination. The drones adapt. They learn. They are designed to counter conventional tactics, advanced technology, biological advantages. They are not designed to counter, he gestured at the screen, creative desperation. I prefer tactical improvisation. You didn't bring weapons because you couldn't afford them, correct? No, I didn't bring weapons because I didn't need to. Ren leaned forward slightly. Commander, what kind of world does your species come from? The question caught Felthan off guard. Calmet Prime. Temperate climate? Stable tectonics? Predictable seasonal patterns? Standard parameters for sapient evolution. Right. Stable. Predictable. Ren nodded. Earth isn't like that. Earth is, and I'm using the scientific term here, completely insane. We've got hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, ice ages, heat waves, and about 6 different types of natural disaster that don't even have names in your database yet. I fail to see every species I've met so far evolved to be really, really good at one thing. You Calmet have 4 arms and coordinated motor control that puts our best surgeons to shame. The Vorentines are walking tanks. The Quellans have compound eyes and can process multiple threats simultaneously. She spread her hands. Humans, we're mediocre at everything, except one thing. Which is? We adapt, not over generations, right now, in the moment. You put us in a situation, any situation, and we will figure out how to use what's available to survive. That's not desperation, Commander. That's engineering. Felthan was silent for a long moment, processing. Then he made a gesture with his secondary arms, and the door opened. 3 more humans entered, looking equally confused about being summoned. A tall woman with engineer's calluses on her hands. A wiry man who moved like he'd spent time in wilderness survival. A shorter person with the relaxed posture of someone who'd talked their way out of more trouble than they'd fought through. These 3, Felthan said, were also flagged by our systems for unusual cognitive patterns during processing interviews. None of you know each other, correct? The 4 humans exchanged glances, shrugged in near-perfect synchronization. Right, the tall woman said. What's this about? A test. Felthan projected a new hologram, a schematic of a secured vault 3 levels down. This is a training facility designed to teach advanced tactical breaching. Standard protocol requires a team of 6 specialists, 2 weeks of planning, and specialized equipment. You will do it in 2 hours, using only materials you find in the surrounding corridors. Ren looked at the other humans. The engineer was already studying the schematic, eyes tracking power conduits. The wilderness type was analyzing structural weak points. The smooth talker was smiling like they'd just been dealt a winning hand. You want us to improvise a heist? Ren said. I want to determine if your performance was an anomaly or a species trait. The 4 humans moved into a huddle that would have looked absurd if it wasn't so. Efficient, rapid-fire conversation, ideas bouncing between them like they'd trained together for years. Maintenance ducts, the engineer said. If they're using standard Calmet architecture, we can reroute power flow, right, the wilderness guide finished. And these walls, they're designed for your gravity. Drop a support beam. While I sweet-talk the maintenance systems, the con artist added. If their security is anything like their bureaucracy, it'll be designed to keep out sophisticated attacks, Ren concluded, grinning. Not 4 idiots with a plan. They turned back to Felthan in unison. We're in, Ren said. But when we pull this off, I want to renegotiate Earth's position in whatever database you're building. Felthan's mandibles twitched, something that might have been respect. Agreed. Prove this wasn't luck, and we'll discuss recategorization. He paused. The Council is already watching. Try not to destroy anything we can't replace. The 4 humans looked at each other and laughed. They didn't make it to 2 hours. They breached the vault in 47 minutes. The council chamber was designed to impress, and it succeeded. Curved walls rose 30 meters overhead, lined with holographic displays showing Calmet military operations across a dozen star systems. The semicircular table seated 9 species, each representing a different branch of the collective's military structure. Commander Felthan stood to one side, his posture somehow conveying both satisfaction and unease. Ren and the other 3 humans stood in the center, looking significantly less impressed than they probably should have been. 47 minutes, the council chair said. Her species, the Thane, resembled crystalline arachnids, each word accompanied by a harmonic shimmer through her translucent body. The previous record was 11 days, held by a team that included 2 demolitions experts and a reality shaper. To be fair, the engineer, who'd introduced herself as Kai Badawi during the heist, said, "Your security systems weren't really designed for lateral thinking." "Explain?" Kai shrugged. "You locked the vault with 17 redundant security protocols, each one sophisticated enough to stop a frontal assault. But you left the maintenance access tied to the main power grid, which meant anyone with basic electrical knowledge could reroute current through the ventilation system and create a feedback loop that—" "We understand the technical details," another council member interrupted. "A Vorantine, massive and scaled, with eyes that glowed faint amber. What we don't understand is how. You had no training together, no shared tactical doctrine, no specialized equipment." "We didn't need it," the wilderness guide, Tomiko Vance, said. "You gave us a problem and an environment. That's all humans need." "That," the council chair said quietly, "is precisely what concerns us." She gestured, and the holographic displays shifted. Data streamed across the walls. Physiological comparisons, cognitive assessments, tactical analysis. Earth's profile appeared, rotating slowly, a blue-green marble that looked deceptively peaceful. "Your world," the chair continued, "has been categorized and recategorized 6 times in the 15 months since first contact. Initially, we classified humans as Category 3, sapient species with diplomatic potential. Then Category 4, moderate technological advancement. Then 5, 6, 7 as we learned more. What category are we now?" the con artist, Lex Volkov, asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer would be interesting. "Category 9, Felthan said. Adaptive threat, highest order." Silence in the chamber. The humans exchanged glances. "For context," a Quellan officer added, all 4 arms gesturing at different data points, "Category 8 species can destroy planets. They have weapons capable of cracking worlds, rendering systems uninhabitable. We classify them as existential threats and monitor them accordingly. Category 9, the chair said, is reserved for species that don't need weapons to be dangerous. Species that can use anything, including destroyed planets, failed equipment, or hostile environments, as weapons against you." Ren felt something shift in her chest. Pride, maybe, or the sudden weight of being seen clearly for the first time. "You're saying we're more dangerous than planet killers," she said slowly. "Because we don't need the planet killer?" "We're saying," Felthan replied, "that you terrify us precisely because you don't think you need anything. Show a Vorantine warrior a broken rifle, they see useless equipment. Show a Quellan tactician a collapsed building, they see an obstacle. Show a human any of these things." He gestured at the vault heist footage still playing silently on one screen. "You see opportunity." "That's a species trait," a smaller council member added. Some avian analog species Ren didn't recognize. "Not individual genius. 4 humans, strangers, working in perfect chaotic synchronization. It's not training. It's instinct." "It's necessity," Ren corrected. Earth doesn't give you choices. You adapt or you die. We've been doing it so long we forgot it wasn't normal. Another council member spoke up, a Grolth, similar to the one Ren had seen in the recruitment line, all dense muscle and integrated blade weapons. We have reviewed your species' historical archives. The data is disturbing. Disturbing how? Kai asked. Your wars, the Grolth said. Most species fight with their best technology. You fought with your worst and still won. Sharpened sticks, rocks, controlled fire. You split atoms before you left your own star system. You turned disease into medicine, poisons into pharmaceuticals, and— He paused, mandibles clicking in what might have been disbelief. You domesticated your own predators and made them into companions. You're talking about dogs? Volkov said, grinning. Wait until you hear about cats. The point, the chair interjected, harmonics sharp with something like concern, is that adaptation isn't a skill for your species. It's fundamental to your existence. You see a problem and immediately begin dismantling it for parts. Kai laughed, short and sharp. You want to know the secret? Earth tried to kill us for 300,000 years. We learned to kill it back using rocks and stubbornness. Everything since then has just been variations on that theme. Which brings us to our proposal, the chair said. She leaned forward, crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into geometric patterns. The Calmet Collective spans 42 systems and protects 300 billion lives. We have warriors, strategists, scientists, engineers. We have species that excel at every martial discipline known to the galaxy. But you don't have anyone who can teach them to think like us, Ren said, seeing it suddenly. Correct. The chair's harmonics shifted to something that might have been respect. We want to offer you, not just the four of you, but Earth itself, a position within the collective. Not as soldiers, as instructors. Teach our forces to see what you see, to adapt as you adapt. Tomiko whistled low. You want us to teach aliens how to be dangerously creative. That sounds like a terrible idea. Probably, Volkov agreed. I'm in. Same, Kai said. They all looked at Ren. She was quiet for a moment, studying the council members, reading the room. These weren't conquerors looking for new weapons. They were professionals who'd just realized their entire tactical doctrine had a human-shaped blind spot. I'll do it, Ren said, but I want something in return. Name it, the chair said. Full access to the Calmet technology database. Not weapons. We'll make those ourselves, apparently, but information. Science, engineering, medical, cultural, everything. If you want humans teaching your people to adapt, Earth needs to know what we're adapting to. We go in blind. Someone gets hurt. The council members conferred silently, some kind of telepathic or technological communication passing between them. Finally, the chair nodded. Agreed, but understand, this makes Earth a strategic partner. That comes with protections but also responsibilities. If human adaptive tactics spread through the collective, if other species learn what you can do, she paused. The galaxy will change. Good, Ren said simply. It should. The training facility on Calmet Station 7 had been redesigned 3 times to accommodate human instruction methods. The current iteration looked less like a military academy and more like an obstacle course designed by someone with a vendetta against conventional thinking. Ren stood in the center of the main arena, wearing the same civilian clothes she'd worn that first day, still unarmed. Around her, 24 alien recruits, Vorantines, Quellans, Thane, even a few calmet, waited with visible tension. "Pop quiz," Ren said. "You're trapped in a derelict ship. No power, no weapons, hulls breaching in 10 minutes. What do you do?" A Vorantine raised one massive claw. "Reinforce the breach with available materials." "Good. You buy yourself time. Then what?" Silence. "You use the escaping atmosphere as propulsion," Aquelin suggested tentatively. "Better, now you're thinking." Ren smiled. "The answer is, there is no answer. There's only what you can find, what you can build, and what you're willing to try. Earth didn't make us strong or fast, or naturally armed. It made us creative. And creativity, properly applied, beats raw power every single time." A young Thane recruit raised a crystalline appendage. "Instructor Wu, what is the most dangerous human weapon?" Ren had been waiting for this question. She'd heard it a dozen times now, from a dozen different species, all trying to understand what made humans different. "We don't have one," she said. "That's what makes us dangerous. We'll use yours." She gestured to the arena around them, to the assembled equipment and debris and broken machines waiting to be repurposed. The galaxy wanted soldiers. Earth sent problem solvers. And every problem, every single one, has a solution hidden inside it. You just have to be willing to see it. Behind her, Kai was running another class through engineering improvisation. Tomiko had a group learning environmental adaptation in the simulation chambers. Volkov was teaching negotiation tactics that apparently translated across species better than anyone expected. And in the facility's command center, Commander Felthan watched it all with something approaching wonder. Beside him, Fel Quinn, promoted now, overseeing recruit integration, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "They're changing us," Fel Quinn said. "Not just tactics, the way we think about problems." "I know," Felthan replied. "That was the point. But are we ready for it? For what happens when the galaxy learns to think like humans?" Felthan considered the question, watching as a Vorantine recruit, species known for brute force approaches, carefully constructed a lever system instead of smashing through an obstacle. "No," he said finally. "But neither is the galaxy ready for what happens if we don't adapt ourselves." On the main view screen, a message scrolled past. "More human instructors arriving from Earth next cycle. Teachers, engineers, artists, scientists, people who saw problems as puzzles, and puzzles as entertainment." Felquin made a sound that might have been concern. "How many are coming?" 200 in the next wave, Felthan said. "Earth has volunteers lined up for years." "Of course they do." Outside the facility, visible through the massive viewport, Earth hung in the distance like a blue promise. A death world that had forged its children not with weapons, but with adaptability, creativity, and the unshakable belief that survival was just engineering under pressure. The recruits began their exercise. Ren watched them struggle, learn, adapt, and smiled. The universe, she thought, was about to get very interesting.